Hi, my name is Lorna Muthamia Uchido, and I'm making it one of my life's mission to demystify the speech therapy field and to empower more parents on what they can start to do in order to optimize their child's communication outcomes. So whether you want your child to talk more or talk better, learn better, and overall optimize their potential. So stay tuned and feel free to send in any topics on speech and language development you'd like for me to tackle. Hi, I am coming to you today with it's not really a toy review, but I am going to talk about a toy that can be useful when you are trying to find activities that you can use to help stimulate language or build language in your child. It's actually a procrastination video because I should be doing something, and then I thought, you know what, let me just do a video. And I haven't done videos, I think, in 2 years because a lot has happened during that time. So this is almost like a tester video. So I am going to try and be offering reviews of activities, or just give ideas of activities or toys that you can purchase that you can use with your child that is preschool or school going, particularly if they're delayed in language. So there's a bit of background noise where I am, but so, just try and mask that. Now, just a disclaimer, I'm not one of those therapists that advocates for like buying plenty of toys and like the house needs to be streaming around. Like I have very definite ideas or thoughts about whether, what I think about that. So very definite opinions about that. And I will share that in a video in due time. But today I thought this is one of, like a staple with my kids that are probably about 4 years, even 3 years, or maybe 4 years. And we're trying to expand language. And part of what I do when I'm trying to expand language in children is that I work on describing skills. So this particular game, it's not a toy, it's a game. And I know you can purchase it. If you're in Australia, you can purchase it from, Kmart, Big W. I actually I spotted it at Big W for $10. Very, very handy, very, very handy. So it's called Kids Charades game. So if you know, like the other version of charades where you pantomime, so you gesture in somebody or you draw. So I never do any of that. So I use this. So this is, I have seen different versions. I do actually have another version that I've used. So this one here has a spinning wheel. It's very nice for when you're doing activities with your child, and it just helps, foster turn taking. So it's my turn, it's your turn. So you can see there are different colored cards. There's the green ones and red ones and green one and blue ones. Sorry, color blind. So the action one, so they represent different types of things. So this is your child then knows they're going to describe an object. So the green one is object, or they're going to describe an animal or an action. So the action is a bit trickier for children who don't have enough language, but doesn't mean that you shouldn't try it. So it's still a good thing to do it. And when I use this with my kids that are delayed in talking, I explain the specifics of the game. So don't be so caught up. We're like, oh, we've got to play the game. Like in between is also learning. It's like we're so caught up as well as adults, as people who are adulting, with trying to achieve goals, and we forget in between there's also living. So living is also part of it. So that's what I say to my parents, like my families, when you're doing any activity with your child, the activity, around the activity is also part of the learning. So don't go over it really quick and say, oh, we've got to do the sentences. No, just explaining, making sure that your child has understood what the game is and how you win the game, what's the aim of the game. So you can make up. I don't ever have like a winning thing here. And actually none of my children has ever asked me, how do you win? Because I always like to specify the rules for how you win. They're so caught up with trying to explain that they've never actually realize this game nobody ever wins. So why is it a game? Well, I don't know. Maybe I might have to think about that if I'm ever asked, how is it a game, Lorna? Nobody's winning. And I'm like, oh, well, you figured this out. So I will say to children, like if I feel like they're not ready to do the action, because explaining or describing an action is a lot harder than describing an object, a noun. Yeah, and let me show you. So how would you describe this? So I'm supposed to guess. So the person, so these are the rules, yeah? So actually maybe let's go there. So you spin, and then if the red one is out, you'll just tell the kids, well, when you land, your child, when you land on the red, then you just have to spin again. So and I make up rules. So what do, and sometimes I just like I seek their consultation, like what happens if it lands in the middle, like of a line? Do you get to choose? And I like them to just offer their ideas about what they think should be the rules, so they don't feel like this rule's just going according to what Lorna wants. So just get a bit of engagement and buy-in. So like, okay, so you decide. And sometimes they say to me, no, Lorna, it's this. And I'm like, okay. And I also entice how the red is tricky. Let's not do the red. Do you think you're ready for the tricky one today? And I find that challenge is good for kids, for them to know that you think they're ready to do the difficult stuff. And sometimes they also feel like, why do you think I can't do the red stuff? And then you're like, oh, okay, let's do the red one. So I like to make it, I like for kids to know that it is okay for them to do hard things, and hard things are actually the way that our brain actually gets better. So let's say you get to the red. So I was explaining how it is so difficult to describe a red. So when you do get a card, so usually I have the cards face down, and then so the child picks up, and I say to them, pick up the card and then don't show me, just look at it. And my little babies sometimes are, and sometimes they look at so this is the word. So this is the actions. This is the one that I think is a bit tricky for kids of about 3 years or 4 years. And they might just say, blowing bubbles. And I'm like, no, you're not supposed to tell me what it is. You're supposed to describe it. And would have already gone, like previously would have probably explained what describing is. And there's actually a format for describing that helps the description sound more, like logical and orderly, yeah, and expressive. Like if you're going to describe, say, let's do something that's easier. So yeah, so an object, so like that. So how would you describe, boat. So how would you describe boat? Most children struggle with how to describe something. They might just say, it's a boat. Like, what else am I supposed to say? It's a boat. I'm like, tell me more about it. It's a boat. And I'm like, So I would have already explained that there is a format, there's a structure. So you always start with the overarching group name, which is the category that this thing belongs in. And this thing actually, so a boat belongs in a category. You can decide, like I use the word transport, is a very big word for little kids, but they get it, yeah? So you can call it transport, you can call it moving things if they're really little, you can call it vehicles. So I don't actually know, is like an aeroplane a vehicle? I've never ever referred to an aeroplane as a vehicle, but I guess transport. And I don't know. Transport is probably a bit stuffy, but yeah, so I use transport and the kids get it. So it moves. And so you always start there, and then you say other things around it. Like, always talk about the function of the thing. You can always talk about, what it looks like. What are some things? Let's name some things on the picture. And I have done this activity with many children, including my own children, and it's such a journey, and it's such a beautiful journey to see the transition where kids go from not being able to describe at all other than just label. And you do get those kids who just are labelers, and as parents, we are excited when we have a child that isn't talking, that starts to label. But then there's more to it. There's more to communication than just labeling things. Table, chair. And parents love to ask, what is this? What is that? But then this child needs to be able to say more than that. So that is what communication is. And so we play this game where don't tell me what it is, don't show me, but talk about it. So I usually will say to them, tell me first thing, what group does it belong to? So I will really prompt, and I will scarf and like support quite heavily. So I might even have some colored chips. I don't actually have colored chips here today, but I do. I mean, I use anything. Like I do have these here, and I might just say, okay, we have to say 3 things about this thing, and then so. And I use colored chips, you can use Skittles, you can use M&Ms, you can use anything that makes it exciting. And basically your creativity is the limit, is your own limit. So if you're very creative, you can just say, you know what, I have just thought of 7 other things I could do with that activity. And I'm like, yeah, good for you. So I'll probably use different colored ones. I'm like, okay, so we have to say the group name, and maybe I might use a square one. So this is the house. What is the name of the group that that thing belongs to? I don't know why I'm over here. And then we put it down, and then so this child says it is transport, and I'm like, huh, what else? So always use maybe different colored ones. So let's not use yellow. And wow, what else? What does it do? Oh, or where does it go? Somewhere special? Because, and then I prompt, you know, like, so it's different from how is a boat different from a car? One of them goes on a road, and what about a boat? Oh, goes in water. Oh, goes in water. So now right away I'm able to say, so it's transport, goes in water. I almost know what it is. And what else? What's a third thing? Can you see something on the boat that you can tell me? And they can say, oh, it has a sail, and it has whatever that lower part is. You might actually need to polish up on your own vocabulary actually before you play this game with a child. And I find that that just is such a good reminder that, you know what, I actually did think that I was not going to have enough to say in a video. Why did I ever think that? Like, I always just say more than I need to say. All right, so then the child then says the three things, and then you then guess what it is. So then you take turns like that. So the reason why, like, so that is an example of, I just, by compulsion, I just had to like tie that back. So let me give you examples of some things that are on the blue one. So the blue one's also nouns, yeah? But they're actually all animals. But don't tell the child they're all animals, yeah? Because animals forms the first part of the description. It's an animal. And this one is, I actually try to describe a seal. So you try and see if you can describe a seal without saying a seal. Very difficult. And if you can do it, then you are really smart. So tell yourself, I am so smart, because Lorna said I was smart. I couldn't describe a seal, and I consider myself a really good communicator. So I was like, what are those? Are those flippers? So again, go on the internet, figure out a way, simple way to describe things, and then maybe do 3 features. You can do 4 features. There's many things you can do when you're trying to describe or teach describing skills, and then later it forms the basis or the foundation for offering contrasting and comparing and contrasting. You have to have knowledge of how to describe first, how to identify similarities and differences. So this is all the foundation. So I was talking about how the red ones are a bit more difficult. So here you'd have to figure out a way to explain it so that you don't say blowing bubbles. So for this, I might say it's an action. So that could be the opening always for the red ones, yeah? If you have older kids, and try this with your kids, you'll realize even the older ones probably struggle to explain, or rather to describe in an orderly manner. So, it's an action. It's something you do with your lips. And I would do this with maybe a straw as well. Oh, is it a straw? Or maybe you can say, it's something you do when you have a tube with soapy water and it makes big, translucent. You can't say bubbles. You see how difficult it is? Big translucent orbs. For a 3-year-old, okay, that's a bit much. All right, so think, you have to be very, very, very creative, yeah? So please keep away from the actions for now, and you start with the objects and the animals. This is, I think, is a known fact that humans, understanding is much bigger than expressive. So which means, and you can see, like, you probably know, of course you can read, you can understand opening a door, but trying to explain words that are almost like solid, they don't have synonyms. So they do have synonyms, but it's like, so what would be the synonym for door? So keep off the red, but then if you want a challenge, for sure. Very, very important to have activities that have rules when you are working with a child, or your child is delayed in talking or has delayed language skills, so that they get to understand rules and expectations. Don't let your child have more than one turn. So you also have a turn, and whenever you're having a turn, it means you're actually modeling to your child how to go about doing it. So they get another example of how you get to describe, so that don't say, oh, well, this is supposed to be for them. They're the ones describe. I say, it's a really fun game. Like, I get really into it. Like, and I never let children, like if it's a game that has winning, I never just let my kids win. Like I will put in a good fight. So it's probably for my own ego, but it's good because they need to know, like in the real life, in the real world, you are sometimes winning and sometimes you're not so lucky, and that's okay. Good lessons all around. So it looks like this video is going to be a keeper. I hope that like you can give it a go. Obviously I am not affiliating for them, but it's just a really fantastic, I think, activity for kids that are or to grow language or to expand language. I will try and review a few other or give suggestions for a few other activities as we go. So hopefully this video has been like the unblocking of my hiatus with from videos, from shooting. So I hope that you can start to see more of me shooting and providing videos that give you value and help stimulate ideas for some things that you can do with your children to grow their language and expand their language and make them smarter. All right, thank you. Where do I stop?